Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Rabban.
We are learning Mishna Sotah, Perek Gimel, Chapter 3, Mishnah 3, Perek Gimel, Mishnah Gimel, Chapter 3, Mishnah 3. All right. Ad shalei nimcha Megillah. If before the scroll was erased, now don't forget, the Torah says that the Kohen writes the portion that the Torah discusses the Sotah on a parchment, and includes Hashem's name, and it's erased into the water. And that's going to be the water that she's going to drink. So now, what happens if the following? Ashlim Megillah, before the Megillah was erased, Amra Eni Shaisa. She says, I'm not drinking. I'm not doing it. She doesn't necessarily, when she says I'm not drinking, she's not admitting guilt. She's just saying, I'm scared. I'm not doing this. Scared. Not doing this. All right. Now let's remember, when she says, I'm not going to drink, at this point in time, we don't make her drink. So what about the fact that, the Mishnah began saying, if before the Megillah was erased, that means it was written already. I mean, the parchment was already written on with everything, it just wasn't erased yet. What are you going to do with that now? If she's not drinking anymore, if the prot's not continuing, what do you do with that? Says the Mishnah, Megillah Sedigneses. Her scroll is hidden away. It's what we call shemus, right? I mean, it has Hashem's name on it. You can't just throw it away, right? So what happens with it is digneses. It is hidden away. Basically, the way they write it, explain it here is that Sotah scroll is hidden at the side of the main temple building. There was an area where it was put away, where it was put aside. And again, you have to remember, this is written on a parchment. It has a sanctity of a Torah scroll, as Hashem's name. So you have to hide it. You got to put it away in a way that it won't be treated improperly. Okay, that's what we do with her Megillah. Nigneses, it's put aside. Uminchasa. Now, what about her mincha? Right? What about the meal offering that was already everything that was done with it? What happens to that? Uminchasa mispazeres al hadoshen, which means, and the meal and her mincha offering is scattered on the pile of ashes where the disqualified offerings are burnt. Meaning, her mincha that's now left around me. She says, I'm not drinking, so we're not going to move forward. We're not going to move forward with the mincha. But the mincha was already sanctified, right? It was already put in a kli sharis. It was already put in a service vessel. So it was sanctified. So what do you do with it? So the Mishnah says, the wording of the Mishnah is, it's scattered on the area where you have the ashes of disqualified offerings. Meaning there was a place, I'll read to you over here. Once a mincha sanctified in a service vessel has the status of a kodshe kodshim, most holy offerings. There are certain sacrifices that are called kodshe kodshim, kodshim kalim, most high, most holy, more lenient holy, we'll call that. And the halacha is that if something is in the status of kodshe kodshim, a most holy offering that is disqualified, must be burnt in a special place in the temple, in the courtyard of the Beis Hamikdash. The special place, if let's say somewhere or another it became disqualified, however it may be, became disqualified. Something that's already status of kodshe kodshim becomes disqualified. There's a special place where to burn it. Therefore, when the Sotah's mincha becomes disqualified, for example, because she refuses to drink, it too must be burned in that place. So there's a special place where the disqualified sacrifices are burned, and that is where you burn the her mincha that's not going to be used. The ein megilasa keshera lahashkas ba'saita acheres, and her scroll cannot be used for another saita.
I was going to ask you.
Let it be used for somebody else. Like let's say hold on to it in case somebody else wants to use it. The answer is no. The whole process of the sotah has to be done specifically for her. And once it was designated for her, it was designated for her. Somebody else can't use something that wasn't designated for them. And therefore, it wasn't made for them, it wasn't written for them, and therefore it cannot be used for a different sotah. All right. So this is all if she said, I'm not drinking before the Megillah was erased, before the writings were scraped off. The same thing would apply if she says Tameani, if she admits and she says, I'm Tameya, that means I committed adultery. I've been defiled, right? We're not going to move forward either. And everything that we have here is going to be done then too. The Mishnah spoke about a case even without her admitting that she became impure, which essentially means that, as we're going to see soon, which essentially means that we know what happened. If she admitted that she committed adultery, we know what happened. There's no purpose of the whole ritual anymore. And if that happens, then we're going to then the same thing applies, but there are some differences. The same thing is going to apply in the case where she admits that she committed adultery. The everything we mentioned here will happen also. Now, Nimachaka Megillah. Let's say we're a step further. The scroll was already erased. That means Hashem's name was already erased, right? Now at this point, right, there is much more concern about it going to waste. I mean, you erased Hashem's name into the water. You don't want to use it, right? You want to say we should use it, not just say, okay, we'll forget about it. Hashem's name was erased into the water. You don't want to go. You want it to go. You don't want it to go in vain. So Mishnah says like this: Nimechacha Megillah. The scroll was erased. V'amra tameya ani. But she said, I am impure. I've been defiled. That means she admitted that she committed adultery. So, hamayim nishpachen. The water is poured out. Okay, which means, hey, okay, what are you going to do now? At this point, where she admits that she committed adultery, then there's no purpose in the water. The whole purpose of the water is to clarify what happened there when she went into seclusion with this man. Well, if she admitted, we know what happened, and therefore there's just no purpose of there's no purpose at all of going further on. So what happens to the water? The answer is nishpachen. It gets spilled out somewhere. You'll tell me, but Hashem's name was erased into there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's already been erased. It's not Hashem's name. There's nothing consecrated about the water. I'll read it to you. Although God's name has been erased and we try to avoid having the name erased for no reason, we do not force you to drink the water. The entire purpose of drinking of the bitter water is to resolve the question of whether she committed adultery when she was secluded. Therefore, when she admits her guilt and the question has been resolved, the water doesn't serve any purpose. Now, even though the water was taken from the kiyar, if you remember, there was a special water basin in the Beis Hamikdash that the water was taken from. That laver, that basin that the water is in, is a kli sharis. It's a service vessel, which means the water has been sanctified. So even though the water was taken from the kiyar, and in this case contains writing of the scroll, including God's name, it is not considered holy, even though it was water in a service vessel. It may therefore be poured out. Okay? And as they bring out in the Mishnah's preceding case, where the writing had not yet been erased, then of course the water is poured out. It says where the writing had not been erased, it is certainly poured out. Meaning in our case, it was already erased. So besides the fact that it was coming from a service vessel and the Yahweh Hashem's name erased in it, still we say it gets poured out. There's no sanctity to this water. And certainly in a case where you only have the fact that the water came from the service vessel, that there, when the process won't continue, that we're going to pour it out. So that's the first thing here. Hamayim nishpachim, the water is poured out. All right. Umin chasa, what happens to her mincha? What happens to the meal offering? Mispazeres aladesha. Again, it gets scattered and burned where the ashes of other disqualified sacrifices are burned. That's mispazeres aladesha. Scattered on the area that contains the ashes of disqualified sacrifice that were burned, which is what we do to her mincha. All right. Now, this is where she said, I am impure. Nimchaka Megillah. The Megillah, the scroll was erased. V'amra eini shaisa. And she said, I'm not drinking. She didn't admit to anything. She didn't admit that she did anything wrong. She said, I'm not drinking. Now, when she says she's not drinking, why is she saying she's not drinking? Could very well be that, again, she didn't admit her guilt, but it could very well be that, it could be she is guilty and she just doesn't want to admit it, or she's scared. Yep. She's just scared. Yeah. She may not have committed adultery, but she's scared. Mm-hmm. So therefore, when we get it to the point already that the Megillah was erased, Hashem's name was already erased, Now already we don't want this water to go to waste. The Amra Aini Shaisa, and she says, I'm not drinking. Ma'arimaisa, you force her. You force her. Umashka Maisa Bal Karcha, and you make her drink. Well, Ma'arimaisa, they force her and make her drink against her will. Why? So they explain, although she refuses to drink the water, it is possible that she is innocent and is just afraid of the bitter water. Therefore, since the matter of her guilt is unresolved and God's name has already been erased, they force her to drink it so that the name will not have been erased in vain. There's a purpose here. It's not like you can't do anything here. The water here, there is a purpose of what she didn't admit. So we still don't have a resolution about what happened. So there is what for the water to do. Now she just doesn't want to do it. Well, at this point, where there is what for the water to resolve, the name has been erased. Therefore, we force her. Now, they add something very interesting here. They do not force her until after they have tried to convince her to drink the water willingly. It's not like they grab her right away and force her down her throat. They attempt to calm her fears by telling her that if she's innocent, it will not harm her. Meaning, if the problem is that she's not drinking the water because she's scared, then we tell her, if you're innocent, I mean, she hasn't admitted anything, and as a matter of fact, she even swore that she was innocent. So if you're innocent, don't worry, nothing's going to happen. If still, she's still too scared to do it, or she's still, at the end of the day, she's still refusing to do it, which could be because she's still too scared, then at that point, we're going to force her to drink. Because since, again, the water has what to resolve, and already Hashem's name has been remained, we're not going to allow that to go in vain. Have a wonderful day and a wonderful Shabbos.
Thank you, Rabbi. Now, what is the last point?